for every player before they actually do.
Yeah, and
before Giannis won it last year.
Yeah. Same thing.
It's the same for every player.
Only player.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. As always, we are streaming to you guys live on DSM Media's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook channel. So if you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. The link tree is in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. And today, 1/3 of my co-host is here with me right now, guys. Katahat. Check him out on Twitter @Katahat79. I am your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter as well @DylanJD98. And just in a few minutes, our third of the trio, Matt McGinty, will be joining us. Check him out on Twitter @Matt_McGinty. And guys, this show is going to be heavy Sixers based. Part of it is just poor timing. We haven't been able to get together and talk Sixers. And part of it, actually, Kata, I'm glad about, because we got to sit back, not let the raw emotion and the heat of the moment of another second round exit consume us, and just start trade this person, fire this person, fire that person. We get to sit back here and digest it and really, analyze what went wrong yet again for the 76ers in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and see where they can go from here. And also, the Phillies finally got a W. For whatever that's worth. So we'll see. Listen, let's just get that out of the way before Gink gets on here, because I know he's not going to want to talk about that Phillies team right now. Kata, if there was ever a game, a type of win, like a type of ending to a game that should, get you going, it's yesterday. Like I know everyone's like, oh, it was such a Phillies way to win the game. I get it. Max Muncy bobbles the ball, skids between his legs. Garrett Stubbs scores, then Roman Quinn scores from home in extra innings. They come from behind, win 4-3 over the Dodgers to not get swept. But that has to jumpstart this team, right? Like, something has to give for this team to show some heart night in and night out. No?
I mean, I guess we can hope. It doesn't inspire any confidence in me at all.
It inspires none in me. I'm just saying, I sit back, and if there was a way to see Bryce Harper's emotion, to see, I get on him all the time, but to see Roman Quinn's emotion, get this team kind of fired up at the end of yesterday's game. Hopefully you can take some of that with you to Atlanta, and kind of get that ball rolling. And yes, sir, what is up? Thank you so much for tuning in and commenting. How about them Birds? Howie Roseman having a hell of an off season, and I can't wait for football season. I did Turf Talk with Scotty on Sunday, and I can't wait to be doing it every Sunday, twice a week, throughout the week during football season. But yeah, once Gink gets in here, we'll get to the 76ers. But Kata, what are your thoughts on tonight's game in Atlanta, or the series as a whole for the Phillies?
I mean, this to me is a must-win series. They need to get 2 out of 3 here. They just have to, or 2 out of 4. I forget how many games it is.
They're 4, I think.
It's 4. They need to win the series. That's like, I don't expect them to go on this tear where they win 10 straight games or anything like that. But as long as they consistently win series, you're going to be fine. And yeah, they're behind the 8 ball right now, but I don't think they're going to win the division anyway. You're more chasing that wild card spot at this point, and at least trying to get in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But they just need to catch some kind of groove here. If it's they win 6 out of 8 or 10 out of 14, something like that.
Which the sad thing is, they just did it on the West Coast trip. Like that. Yeah. That's why I lack faith and hope in this team right now, because like, I'm sitting here like, oh man, if they can just go on, you just said it, 6 of 8. Well, what do they do on the West Coast trip? What do they go, 5 and 7?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So like, they just did exactly what we're asking for. And then they came home and showed no heart, no life. They scored 3 runs in a series versus the Padres. And then you come out and lose the first 2 to the Dodgers. The first game of which you scored 1 run. And then the second game, Aaron Nola comes out pitching a gem. The bats get going early, and then you don't score from like the 4th inning on or something like that, and the Dodgers come and win 7-4, and then you squeak that one out yesterday in weird, miraculous fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm almost speechless because they're just I say this a lot about this team. They're too talented, man. Like they're too talented top to bottom in this lineup to be having these issues. And yes, I know we can point to the collapse in the 9th inning against the Mets and the bullpen. The bullpen's been fine. The starters have been spectacular. It's somehow this lineup is what's holding this team back. Welcome to third member of the trio of the Phaithful Phanatics show, guys. Check him out on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. Again, we were just wasting some time before you got on to talk Sixers. We were talking about the Phillies. Do you have any inspirational words for the team tonight?
No, I'm not an inspiration guy. Just be better.
No, be better. Okay, I like it. You show with action, right? No words.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we can stop wasting time now, Kata. Let's get to the 76ers season outlook. Where do they go from here? We got a lot to get into, right? We can start with whatever direction you guys want to take it, whether that be the James Harden contract. What are they going to do with him? He's opting in, but will he take a little bit of a pay cut, kind of a team-friendly thing to bring more ammunition to the 76ers? What are you doing with Doc Rivers? Daryl Morey says that he will be back here next year. Are the Sixers running it back with Doc? Where there's smoke is there fire in LA with the Lakers. Brian Windhorst already came out with a report 35 seconds after the season ended that Daryl Morey is trying to acquire another star here in Philadelphia. Is that the right move? Should they be looking to go star hunting, or should they be looking to add more depth and build more of a roster around Joel Embiid this season? It's Tyrese Maxey. Again, we're going to use the U word. Is he untouchable? Because I know for a large portion of this fan base, that's exactly what he is, untouchable. And is that correct? So a lot to get into today. Again, I'll throw it to you first. Just kind of before we get into anything in the offseason, what's your final thoughts on the season and how the season ended? The fact that they lost in 6 to Miami, because we haven't discussed it. Like we've digested that series loss for over a week and a half now. How disappointed are you? Are you that disappointed? Whatever.
Yeah, like you said, it's been a week and a half. It's tough to still dwell on it, but it's I think it really does fall into kind of the what if category with how unhealthy Joel was, truthfully. And they got beat by Miami. It wasn't close. Whether people want to admit it or not, there was no – I don't think any of us, besides maybe after Game 4, there was a little hope there was a chance they'd win this series. They won 2 in a row with Joel when he came back. They were obviously at home. And then Game 5 and 6 was just some of the flattest basketball I've seen a team play.
Yeah.
And that kind of poses a question a lot of where do they go from here? Every single season in the last – this is the 4th season now where Philadelphia has lost, and it's where do we go from here? Because obviously the first year was when Jimmy was here. Were we going to sign Jimmy back? Obviously we didn't. Then the next year is the Al Horford tandem, and we tried the bully ball thing, and it didn't work. So where do we go from here? They flip Al Horford. We try the positionless look with Ben at the Ben at the point, and that burned. And then you try, all right, let's get 2 of the best 10 players in the world, and all in all, it didn't work. Now, you really have to sit back and look and probably think this was probably the best shot they had in terms of a roster with everyone playing at their peak, even though, my God, the peak was not there between the 2 of them in that last series. But the roster still needs to shape up. And the way you go about that is there's a lot of directions. What is James going to sign for? What is he willing to put on the table for Philadelphia? Is he willing to do 2 years for 60? Does he want 4 years? Does he want 3 years? That's where it really kind of boils down to. And then you kind of get into the trickle-down effect of who's going to be the coach. Did Embiid sign off on Doc Rivers to be the coach next year? For me, I don't see a world where Harden signs off on that, truthfully. If Mike D'Antoni's an option and Philadelphia can talk to him, I don't know why James Harden isn't beating at the bush for Mike D'Antoni. That's just my opinion. I could be missing completely there, but that's where I look at that. And then you look at Tobias Harris. A lot of these – now the playoffs are going on, you always see these guys like Grant Williams and P.J. Tucker and Marcus Smart and these physical guys.
Gabe Vincent, Max Strus.
Yeah, we should trade Toby for 3 of those guys. Well, these guys aren't giving up 3 of those rotation pieces of championship caliber teams for Tobias Harris, whether people want to admit it or not. and then obviously the kid is the next piece, in my opinion. Where do you go with Tyrese Maxey? Is he untouchable? There's an example for you, 2 years, 70. But again, is he willing to sign for 2 years?
Right. Because
You
what's
really
the
need to
option
sit
right
here-
now? 47.5 or
Yeah, like you need to sit here and really think if you're James Harden. Okay, I can either play one more year at 47. If I think I'm able to be fully healthy, do you do like a prove it year? Even though I don't think James Harden's signing up for a prove it year. I
Right.
think he's going to say, I want 3 to 4 years. I want 35, 36 million a year. And if you're not willing to give me that, give me a random team name that will be. So it's super interesting where they're going to go. I have my ideas of what I want them to do. I'm sure we'll get into that, but
Yeah.
the last kind of pillar of that is what you do with Tyrese Maxey and what would you be willing to give him up for? Is there a line? Is there a player name that kind of is the last one you trade him for, or would you go above and beyond? Is he not included in any packages in your opinion? Obviously, the Matisse Thybulle untouchable thing is now
gone.
burning at the stake. Like, it looks terrible. So we'll see.
So Abe says he thinks Harden's not going to opt into the 1 year, 47.5 mil and go for a longer contract for sure. The question is, this is it, right? What James Harden will you be getting at that price tag, whatever the price tag may be? Is it the fact that the hammy was bothering him? Is it the fact that he was only here for 2 months or a month and a half before the playoffs began? And will a full season with him and Joel Embiid, prime them for a better run? I don't know the answer to that because I kept waiting for him to kind of flip that switch, and he did it for half a second in game 4 or 3. What game did he take over at home?
Game 3.
Game 3. And then he disappeared. So I don't know what to expect from James Harden. And those are all the things we're going to be getting into today. Again, you're 100% right. But Kyle, I'll throw this to you, just kind of wrapping up how the season ended, because I have questions, right? We haven't discussed this. How many guys in that locker room? You heard Danny Green say it. You heard George Niang say it. I want to say maybe Ferk even says multiple players in that locker room came out and alluded to the fact that they didn't have guys in that locker room that could take a beating like they did in game 5 and respond. You know what you know the comments I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what the hell happened in game 5? Do you get my point? Okay. You took the beating in game 5, so you didn't have the character, you didn't have those characters in a locker room that could respond to a game 5 beating in game 6. How did you go from the highest of highs in game 4 and show up the way you did, flat the way you did, heartless the way you did in Miami in game 5? That's what I'm not understanding about those comments. Because it took an ass whooping in game 5 for you to not be able to respond in game 6. How did you show up so flat in game 5 to allow the series to play out the way it did? That's where I'm completely lost with these dudes at the end of the season, because it's like analysts were changing their opinion, changing their picks. Like they I'm like, okay, here goes Philly. People are like, Philly's winning the next 4, blah, blah, blah. And that's what you did in game 5. I could not believe it. But Kata, what's your word or how do you feel wrapping up the season for the Sixers? Because it's another yet disappointment. And this one hurts. Well, this is probably game number 3, 4 on the list of disappointing seasons. You got the shot. You got the Hawks game. You got the Hawks series last year. This is number 3 on the list.
Yeah. It's I don't know where you go from this. Because, obviously, most of us want them to fire Doc Rivers. Unless the Lakers somehow scoop him up and trade for him or something, they're not firing him. And the team just needs, an overall retool, kind of. They need a better bench. I don't know how you do that. And I don't see how Harden is going to put this team over the top at all, even if he's 100% healthy. He just doesn't seem like he has it anymore. The fire wasn't there. He didn't seem like the same James Harden, even from Brooklyn at the beginning of the season last year. So I don't know where you go with this team. I wouldn't bring back Harden. Now, obviously, some of that's not our decision at all. But what do you do if Harden doesn't come back? Like, do you flip Tobias? I don't know. Because if Harden doesn't come back, then you probably do need another star. And you still need to rebuild that bench too. You notice is like the teams that are left, they all have great benches. We need to somehow get to that point. I don't know how you do it.
All right, let's jump into this offseason, and we can go ahead.
Let me just ask real quick, and this is a question for you guys, obviously. I read this article from some sort of, like, I don't know if it was a trainer or a doctor or something. They said, like, you can get thrown into a cycle where you rush yourself, or like when James Harden, people thought he purposely was out of shape in Houston, and then he got hurt in Brooklyn, and you just can never get back into game shape because of it. Like, there's a chance, and this is all speculation just from reading this. It's like the weird side of me that looks up like what if scenarios about guys. Like, what if he literally never does get back into game shape and he signs a 3-4 year deal here?
Then the Sixers they're in purgatory.
They're done. They're going to be in the same spot they are. The process is going to have to start over.
They're in purgatory.
Yeah, the James Harden thing is scary.
James Harden thing's scary, and then that's where like the Tyrese Maxey thing comes into play for me, because something people are forgetting. And let's get into the star versus bench conversation, and then also if you're going star hunting, you got to get the give, and are you willing to part ways with the 21-year-old kid? And James Harden plays a factor in this game, like you just mentioned. I cannot have this team be stuck in purgatory and second round exit after second round exit. I'll lose my mind at some point or another. We all figured Joel Embiid would get this team to at least a conference final, if not further. But Tyrese Maxey is another one that plays a role in this, right? Because he was spectacular this year. The jump he took, on number-wise from the three-point line, number-wise points per game went up like 11 points per game, 12 points per game. His three-point shooting went up like 17%, 16% or whatever. It was ridiculous, right? He took a major leap this year, and he's so young, and he's a budding superstar, it feels like. However, everyone forgets the timeline. We're on a timeline. Am I the only one that remembers that with Joel Embiid? Like, how many more years do you guys reasonably think Joel Embiid is going to be playing peak MVP type of basketball? 3?
I was going to say, he's probably got 3 more years of that, and
then a steady
2 to 3 years of productiveness.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Does Tyrese Maxey, I'm not saying he doesn't, but does he line up in that timeline? No. So if we're in win now mode, what gives you a better chance to win now? Tyrese Maxey on this team, or does Donovan Mitchell, does Bradley Beal? Now, I'm not, obviously Tyrese Maxey is not included in the Zach LaVine trade, and we'll get into those rumors in a little bit with Matisse Thybulle and all in Chicago. But just those two guys in general, right? Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah. Mind you, Donovan Mitchell is only 25 years old? Donovan Mitchell is also extremely young. Bradley Beal is obviously older, but we know the type of scorer that Bradley Beal is. Do they give you a better chance to win now in Joel Embiid's prime than Tyrese Maxey does? I don't want to lose him. I don't want to move him. But I do not like the U word at all. You know who's untouchable? Joel Embiid. Like, Joel Embiid's the one dude on this team that doesn't get moved. Okay? And I hate the U word. And everyone,
I don't know. The right offense is long. I might move him.
So where do you guys stand on this? Again, I'll go to you first. Like, should they be going star hunting? Is that the way? Is that the quickest way to get back to, competing for a chip? And B, you got to get the give, bro.
So the alternative to not star hunting is obviously improving the bench mightily.
Right, because everyone sees what Miami is right now. Yeah. Everyone sees what Boston has, and they're going to try to replicate it. I'm not saying that's wrong.
No, but my thing is this. They got those guys because they drafted guys, undrafted free agents. Like, those rosters don't happen by flipping stars for pieces. That doesn't happen. What I don't understand is people think, again, you can trade Tobias Harris for a Grant Williams, PJ Tucker, and Max Strus. That doesn't happen. Those trades don't happen. what I'm saying is the quickest way, in my opinion, is star hunting. And to give Tyrese Maxey, I would sign off on that in a heartbeat. I don't think the timetable matches up. I think he's 21 now, right? That's what we all say. And he shrunk in these playoffs, especially in games 5 and 6. He shriveled up. And that happens when you're 25. Or, sorry, 21 he is. I don't know why I said 25. When you're 21 years old, that might happen. So, okay. Is he going to shrivel up when he's 22? Because then there's one more year of Embiid's career. Then 24.
Right, and this is it, too. They don't have years in the making.
That's
they
what
have
I'm saying.
timeline.
But the thing is that those rosters aren't years plural. Like, Miami got PJ Tucker this year. Miami got Max Strus this year. Miami got Gabe Vincent this year. Miami got one of the Martin twins this year. Miami basically got Victor Oladipo this year. They got him last year at the deadline. Like, these guys have been there. Like, they made it happen. It's not like they were like Golden State when they first won and they brought up Festus Ezeli and all these names. It's not what happened. It's the roster can overhaul, but we don't have the room for the roster to overhaul, especially if Harden opts into a $47 million deal. So I think the quickest way is to go star and to go get a star and be the best you can be and make guys want to come here. That's another thing. We had Drummond signed for, obviously, the vet minimum this year, and that was awesome. And he was awesome. Ended up being a piece we could flip for James Harden, so it was great. But how many more guys are really going to be itching to get to Philly at this point is the question you need to ask yourself. Because, again, we all love Joel Embiid. He's one of my favorite athletes ever, but this is another postseason where he wasn't fully healthy. James Harden does not look fully healthy. Your next best player is 21 years old, and Tobias Harris is on not a very good contract.
And Doc Rivers is here.
And Doc Rivers is your head coach. Like, where do you get these rosters that everyone thinks we can get is my biggest question.
I also caught out thirsty here to you too. I feel like I know which angle you're leaning, but my question to people is, I get the depth and I get it. Like the Sixers had James Harden and Joel Embiid this year, so whatever. But I just don't know how people can look me in the face, regardless if the bench is the same as it is next year. And I don't want it to be. I do not want another year of Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, B-Ball Paul. Well, B-Ball Paul's obviously going to be here, but you get my playing valuable minutes like this, arguing over who the backup 5 needs to be. Right? I don't want to see it. But I don't know how you can look me in the eye and tell me that Joel Embiid, James Harden, and one of Bradley Beal or Donovan Mitchell is not in title contention, regardless of if the others are the same. Like that, like we're all stuck with this sour taste in our mouth of the loss to Miami. Do the Sixers lose to Miami if they have Donovan Mitchell or Bradley Beal? Maybe, but I don't know.
I think part of it for me is I don't feel as comfortable with Bradley Beal and Donovan Mitchell right now. I don't know. I just never liked Donovan Mitchell to begin with, and Bradley Beal coming off the injury still scares me. I know he should be healthy and all, but there's only so much that I can take, especially with Harden being what Harden is at this point. So to me, I mean, Harden didn't even look like a star anymore. So, yes, you need to go get a star. I just don't know if those guys are the right guys, and I don't know who's going to come up. Because, I mean, every year there winds up being some guy that we don't expect winds up being traded. So there's that, and I just feel like Maxey is so much closer. He's developing so fast that I think he might be okay next year to take that step. I don't know 100%, but you trade him in Washington and wants to be a star there, that scares me too.
Listen, I don't want to move him, and I said this in the group chat. If there's a guy, I know we get on him at times. If there's a guy who can get a Donovan Mitchell or Bradley Beal without moving Tyrese Maxey. Did anyone think he would get James Harden without moving Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle? Right? Those were the two guys, and everyone's like,
I would have traded Thybulle in a heartbeat.
Well, right. But at the time, there was 80% of the fan base was like, no to Thybulle, right? He was the stopper, right? Well, he did it. So I don't want to lose Maxey. My point is to kind of off of what you just said, I don't like how our fan base can underestimate a Donovan Mitchell and then I don't want to use the word overvalue on this kid because I see it too, but just put all this stock into the 21-year-old kid. Maybe that's because I'm not used to Philly having this 21-year-old budding superstar, and I don't know what it looks like, right? I don't know what the vision looks like. But I know that Donovan Mitchell is an all-star / budding. He's not a superstar, but you get my point. And if you put Donovan Mitchell with Joel Embiid and James Harden, you have a big three, and that's arguably the best big three in all of the NBA. So to say they're not championship contenders is preposterous. So that's my only argument. I don't want to do it, but if Daryl Morey brings in a superstar or a star and he's the cost, it would be really hard for me to say no.
But my question is this with the Tyrese Maxey thing, and maybe I'm missing something, but how much better is he going to get in the next 3 years? This was like a leap that no one –
right. Or are you expecting him to take this leap again? Like,
it's just not possible.
Yeah.
He's not going to be Steph Curry next year. He's not going to be Damian Lillard next year. And if he is, then fair play to him. We're probably going to win the championship at that point. But the steps he can take are only so much to this point. Obviously, he can definitely progress in his career, and we can look back at this in 3 years and be like, he got significantly better. But it's going to take 3 years to get significantly better, like he did in this year. This year, like this, how much better he got was like amazing to see, and we all acknowledged it. Like he took a leap that none of us expected, and it made it look easy, to be honest with you. But you don't make those leaps every year,
right? Like
turn into Thanos.
Like let's say he made a 70% leap this year, right? Is he going to make? He's not going to make another 70% leap again next year, right? Maybe he makes a 20% leap. But I don't know. I disagree with this slightly because it's not. I'm not saying like you're not subtracting Maxey and like James Harden, and now you're rolling it back with Donovan Mitchell and Joel Embiid. I'm like. Heading into Miami, maybe we were wrong for thinking it. Clearly we were. They lost the series again. But we all thought there was a chance that they could make a title run. Maybe not win it all, but they could get there, at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, right? That was with this team. Okay, now keep this team, subtract Tyrese Maxey, and add Donovan Mitchell.
Well, Tobias would have to go in these.
Tobias, okay,
yeah. But even so.
Right.
And like what Donovan Mitchell brings to the table is like unprecedented, much better.
So let me ask you guys this, because there's another rumor of a guy that was the U word again a year ago, and Matisse Thybulle, who is no longer viewed as such. Chicago has interest in him. It's no longer a guarantee Zach LaVine wants back in Chicago. What's a better option? Moving Matisse Thybulle and like let's say Tobias Harris and whatever else for Zach LaVine, who let's say is here. Really good player, but not a superstar, or moving Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris and some smaller pieces for Donovan Mitchell or Bradley Beal. Like, which one would you rather? Because you'd either have Maxey, Embiid, Harden, LaVine, or Harden, Embiid, Mitchell / Beal. Which one is more of a contender?
I think it would. It's tough to say if the deals were done straight up and that's all we were getting for both sides. Like I would probably do the LaVine, obviously, because you keep Maxey. But I think Utah would have to send some things back too with Donovan Mitchell. I don't think they would get over with just that. So it'd be interesting to see what they would send back in that portion. But I'm a big fan of Zach LaVine, like very big. So I would really want to hear out how we could get Zach LaVine. But if you want the brutal truth, I don't see why Utah or Chicago is doing any type of deal for either of those guys. I just don't. I don't. Like, why does Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris scream Utah should try to flip them as opposed to the New York Knicks and they can get X, Y, and Z for Donovan Mitchell? Unless people legitimately think Tyrese Maxey is the next superstar, which a lot of people could think that, but I don't see giving up those kind of guys for Tyrese Maxey right now. For those teams specifically, like Chicago's in win now mode. They just signed DeMar DeRozan. They traded for Nick Vucevic last trade deadline. They got Lonzo Ball last offseason. I don't think so. If they think that improves their team and their backcourt becomes more of a logjam, that's up to them.
Well, no, I mean with them, apparently it wouldn't even take Maxey, and Matisse just might get the ball rolling there. But
not ever love Matisse Thybulle.
Hey, Kato, what route is better? Is it to keep Maxey at LaVine or move Maxey, get a Mitchell or Beal?
For me, I think it's pretty clearly LaVine. I don't know. I'm a huge LaVine fan too, so that's part of it. I don't know. I don't see that big of a difference between Mitchell and LaVine for it to be worth it to give up Maxey. Because especially if you have Maxey coming off that bench, he's going to provide some fire out there, and our bench won't be as bad. I mean, the bench is still going to suck, but if you have a really good point guard in the second unit who can lead them, who can at least score a little bit and not make it a negative 15 when Embiid's off the bench, that's a big difference and could win us a few games.
So this is, I mean, I'm with you guys. Like I said, I don't want to move Tyrese Maxey, and if you can get an all-star and Zach LaVine back while keeping Tyrese Maxey, and now you might have a big four rather than maybe a little bit better of a big three if you had a Donovan Mitchell with Harden and Embiid. I agree. My question is, so you mentioned it earlier, and like, I think a lot of people have this viewpoint of, okay, we're moving Tobias Harris, but people think it's going to be for A, B, and C. Like they're going to get multiple role players out of it, etc. I think Tobias Harris is going to be a money part and a part in a trade as what we're discussing right now, a star. Like I you know what I mean? So how can the Sixers improve this bench if not through trade via Tobias Harris? Because I don't think that's the way it's going to go. Like you look at, I mean, free agent wise and how much money they're going to have left. What can they realistically do?
Yeah, there's so many I think there's more avenues than people think. Like I said, obviously people want I want the three guys I kept naming about the bench. I want Donovan Mitchell, but I think there's a lot of other ways they can really go about this. Like you look at like a Harrison Barnes contract. Harrison Barnes isn't on the best contract. He makes a lot of money. He's got 1 year left. And I think he's an unrestricted free agent after that. Like, could you see Philly flipping him in Sacramento? Could you see Philly flipping them in a deal with like OKC to free up money in a way? Like, I don't know if they're stone cold going to be set on, okay, we need to trade Tobias for a contributor right now. Because Philly might look at the roster with Harden. Again, this all is going to come down to when they sit down with Harden and be like, do you think you can get back to a superstar? It doesn't need to be 40 and 16, but a superstar. Are you going to be healthy enough to be a superstar at some point? And if they think so, this roster might be okay to trade Tobias Harris to relieve cap the year after. But again, It's still going to take pieces. It's not like they're going to run back and it's going to be the same thing. We're going to see Shake Milton. We're going to see Ferk. We're going to see Charles Bassey and Paul Reed fighting for backup minutes. That's not going to be a thing. I think they're going to do a much different job this year. Like, you just need to go out and get athletes. I know we were talking about this in the DSM chat. Like, just get guys that can move, defend on the wings. Like, you're looking at
not DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, you're looking at the playoffs right now, and you're just looking at who's left in the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you just saw Giannis. Chris Middleton obviously missed the playoffs, but you saw him. Like, the wings that are left, we just don't have anyone to match up with them. Danny Green's just not going to cut it, sadly. So Philly's going to have to find a way to improve the roster, but the Tobias Harris thing, I think, can go a lot of different ways. Would I be surprised if he was in a deal for a superstar? No, because the money makes the most sense. Would I be surprised if it was a salary dump and you get back a guy like Harrison Barnes, or I don't even know any other names, to be honest with you, off the top of my head? Or could it be for, let's get depth, like if someone's willing to give up all these pieces for Tobias Harris? But I don't know how Daryl Morey pull that one off. So
how much faith do you have? The call out there is to you, because Ginka kind of just alluded to the fact that Toby could be here next year. I know you're not a Tobias Harris fan. How much faith? How do you think there's this large or small chance that he's back?
I think Tobias will be gone.
You know how disrespectful that is to say when the dude just had his best postseason run of his entire career?
I still don't like him. I don't care. Furkan Korkmaz is better than him.
Yeah. All right. Ferk needs to be gone too. Was Ferk a 1 year deal in the offseason? Remember that when that was their first signing of the offseason?
3 year deal.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years. Yeah, I think he's here.
3
I
years,
think first year
mil.
for
3 years, 15 mil. Steal.
Yeah, he stole money. Yeah, exactly. There's like
Point Ferk is the best ever.
I think the next thing to really talk about is the Doc situation.
The
Doc situation is so unique right now with the Lakers, and now they're out on him. They don't think he's going to be freed up. And Daryl Morey, 12 hours after a loss, yeah, he's here to stay. He's ours, which in my opinion, it means one of two things. It means Joel Embiid walked in there and said, "This is my coach. I want this coach." Or Daryl Morey really looked at the roster and said, "Did I give this guy a fair shot to win?" And we still got the 4 seed with a guy in the first half of the season that was a diva and didn't want to play here. Right. So maybe he sees the framework of Doc and it's not that bad. Or again, it's all a way to
all smoke screen.
Keep the Mike D'Antoni thing in the back of their head and keep Doc off other teams' radars for now. But what would you – I would fire Doc today. I've talked about it. I think his time here is done. But could you imagine if Doc was a part of a trade for like another superstar? That would be –
I'm sorry. I didn't that can happen.
Yeah, they're just assets to the organization.
That's unbelievable to me. Like, I had no idea that was a thing.
He got traded before.
Yeah, he got traded to the Clippers.
I don't remember that.
Send him back to LA again. We can do it.
He got traded for the Clippers when Paul Pierce went to the Clippers.
Give us LeBron back.
Yeah.
So here's my worst. Like, the offseason needs to get started ASAP. Like, this finals run, Steph, Clay, go win another chip, and let's get this thing moving because I need change, bro. Like, I know people are clamoring for Phillies change, and they need them. I know trending on the AM just Phillies need a major shakeup.
Yeah.
We need something different. So, like, can you imagine Harden opts in for the 47.5? Tobias is back. The bench is back with like 2 different pieces, and Doc's here, and we're running this thing back. I'll pull my hair out. I'll be bald by the beginning of the season. And do you guys have any fear that this roster could look eerily similar at the start of next season?
I don't think it's going to be close. I don't, in terms of the bench. I think the core unit could be back. I think Maxey, I think Tobias, I think Harden, and I think Embiid could be back. There's just so many names on the market this offseason that I think there's no way you're bringing back like it's going to be the normal Shake Milton route. Like, names that really jump out, like Phoenix obviously just lost to Dallas, and Cam Johnson, I think, is a name that really screams at me. I think Dante DiVincenzo really screams at me, even though like just because he's a Villanova guy, but he's a restricted free agent in Sacramento who's a dumpster fire. Someone put out an article and they had all these names on it. It might have been Harrison Graham. Shout out Harrison Graham. I was reading his article and it was like Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, like a bunch of guys that are on bad teams that can be productive. And I don't know why these bad teams would kind of keep them around type thing. The only thing they're going to do is maybe win them games if they don't want to win. So I think you're going to see maybe 2-3 different guys, truthfully, off the bench, which makes a huge deal in my opinion. Or maybe not a huge deal.
Don't underestimate it, bro.
Especially if you move Thibault for something else, too. Because I don't think Thibault's back.
Move for a bag of dog shit, because that's about all he is.
I think Thibault is approaching like.
He was untouchable. He's unplayable. Like, he's unwatchable. Like, there's the U words we can start using when it comes to Matisse Thibault. You know how, like, talk about it, dude. He smacked this organization in the face. All that, but you want to talk about like Ben Simmons? Like they asked, "Hey Ben, you think like you could work on your game? Like you think you can make some free throws?" And he was like, "Nah,
no."
Thibault just openly was like, they're like, "Hey man, like you think you can improve your 3-point range?"
No,
not a shot. Actually, I want to get worse.
You can do anything to be a little bit more productive.
Actually, I want to get worse. Remember when he airballed a layup in the postseason?
Dude,
I don't want to talk about it.
I think he's approaching like. And Ben will never be passed in terms of hate and like can't come back here. Like Thibault's getting to be that guy where fans will legitimately probably just start.
What do you think they're going to do with the mural?
But there's such a like difference. Like half the fan base loves him still, and half them like let's get him the hell out of here.
Even a DSM. And like there's I don't understand the ration. There's no rationale. It's just Thibault's my guy. Why? What does he do right?
You have to look at who's playing right now and who these guys are bringing off the bench. And there's just no Matisse Thybulles out there. There's not. There's Jordan Poole. There's Derek White.
Defensive specialists don't work.
The defensive specialists that are left in the NBA are the guys that can knock down corner threes or like box you out into the 6th row. Like that's who's left here. It's not Matisse Thybulle. There's no Matisse Thybulles left. Right. Again, if you look at like the closest thing Matisse Thybulle is Reggie Bullock, who just went 0 for 10 last night and single-handedly lost his team a basketball game.
Single-handedly lost me my parlay last night as well. Thanks for throwing that one out there again.
Like they're just not here. Like Reggie Bullock's also significantly better than Matisse Thybulle, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and he had one of the worst games I will ever see as a basketball player. But
big slap in the face too. That Tease was second team all defense, and Joel Embiid.
No, that's good. Morey might be able to play with that a little bit.
No, I know.
Morey can play with himself.
But like they were like, hey man, like you think you could just like knock down some wing threes when you're open? How about I shoot under 30%? How's that grab you?
He was so bad.
Awful, bro. Also, he can't be back. Like you said it in the chat the other night, Kent. Like, how many years are we gonna get to the trade deadline or on the cusp of the postseason, and we're sitting here like, oh, maybe Shake can be the guy off the bench, like right, like Danny Green. Like we don't know, like a major injury at this age, at this point in his career. There's no way he can come back, and I don't want any no doing what Howie did post the Super Bowl, and that was a winning team. No giving out like, oh, here, thanks, Danny, a thank you contract. I don't want any of that, right?
Is he a free agent?
I think so.
If he is,
I think he's got a team option or something.
Well, team option denied. Okay, like
yes.
Danny, he not at this age. I'm sorry, like not happening.
Goodbye.
Who else? DeAndre Jordan gone. Paul Millsap gone. Isaiah Joe not here. Furk, smell you later. Like just so many guys on this team cannot be back. Like the one dude, like all right, what B-ball Paul can come back. All right. We lost. Game.
Another name is Victor Oladipo. After watching Victor Oladipo, the Sixers have a mid-level exception to offer, and I would love to see them swing it to Victor Oladipo. Probably won't happen, but probably just go back to Miami with everyone else. But
we need some recruiting done by Embiid and Harden.
Well, here's the thing, Connor.
They need to recruit.
Do guys want to play with these guys? Like that's the question.
Listen. Pat Beverly seems like he would love to play with James Harden. Okay,
Pat Beverly thinks James Harden's Michael Jordan. Still,
so listen. If Pat Bev wants to come here, by all means, do it. Yeah. Here's where I'll kind of push the conversation a little further before we wrap things up. I know we're far off because they just got bounced in the second round again, but how we went into this postseason run pre-Embiid injury, like after the Toronto series, did we believe the Sixers could possibly make a run? Yeah, right? So if the core does come back and the bench is 3 more productive players that you had, consistent players that you had than you had last year, how far off realistically are they? That's my question. I don't know. Maybe you still get a shell of James Harden. Maybe Tobias Harris shouldn't come back. But if you have a consistent bench that isn't getting outscored 41-11 in the regular season, and Joel Embiid and James Harden don't have to be spent by the postseason, maybe they're not that far off. I have no idea. I don't know how to judge this team. I don't.
They're
Doc Rivers is still a coach.
They're far off, but there's things you can do to not be far off.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you went out and they added 3 productive bench players, I'm throwing names out there. It's not happening. But Patrick Beverly, Bobby Portis, and blank.
Yeah, like I said, if you trade Matisse Thybulle to some, like let's just say Matisse Thybulle goes and you get Cam Johnson. If you sign Patrick Beverly and if you get Marcus Morris, there's 3 names right there.
Right. Okay.
They're all shopping. That's 3 guys that are all three rotation pieces that if you brought back the same starting core, your team's probably
you're in contention, right?
Yeah, you're in the same spot you were, and then next thing you know, you're one deadline deal away from being legit contenders. So,
right.
Yeah.
But how much? But
how much gets done?
Here I go again. How much does that sound like contenders, and how much does Donovan Mitchell on this team sound like contenders?
No, I agree. That's the question.
And why was he at the Philly game? I have questions, man. Why was he there?
Oh, that'll be beautiful. That'll be a fine incoming.
Yeah, I know. Let's see, Abe. I also want Joel's mindset to change in the regular season too. Stop going for the MVP. Focus on something like defensive play. Keep your body fresh.
I'll take none of the above and just play 60 games and not be injured when we get to the postseason.
Yeah, guys, is there anything else we can get into as far as where the Sixers
closing the chapter on the Sixers until free agency starts?
Oh, 100%. Gint's going to have to talk some baseball coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, that seems real exciting heading into Atlanta tonight. But
I'm excited.
final question here. We started out the show with James Harden, and you mentioned what a possible deal could look like. What is he worth to you right now? Is he worth 30 mil a year, 35 a year?
I would do 2 years 60. I think 2 years 60 is very fair. I think 2 years 60, and maybe a third year of you can't get a team option out of it from James Harden. So I guess I'll just do 2 years 60 is what I would give him right this second.
Gotta. Don't say zero either.
I'm letting him sign that 1 year and see what he is at the end of the year.
Approve it.
But my question is if he signs, let's just say that's the case. What the hell can they do if let's just say Tobias doesn't get moved? Again, how are they affording this?
What, the 47?
Yeah.
It's already on the books. You're good.
If Tobias stays, I'm saying, how can you improve the bench?
Oh, you can't. Oh, no, you can't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You better hope every single vet in the world wants to sign the vet minimum player.
But I don't know what you're going to do with 2 years 60 either. You're still over the top.
You're right. 2 years, but 2 years 60 is in hope that he returns to being a superstar. And
right. Well, it also frees up almost 18 mil this year.
That's true. Yeah.
But aren't they like 70 mil over the cap anyway?
What?
I thought they're like 70 mil over the cap anyway.
Well, at that point, F the cap.
No, yeah, it frees up. I wonder how much it frees up in terms of that they could spend. That's a great question. I'd have to really.
That's part. I don't understand the NBA cap at all.
Me neither.
But it's a shit show.
I look at the Lakers roster and I'm like, oh, there's a cap in the NBA. They have every household name in the world, and they still can't make it. Oh, the cap increase. That's a good point. Well, the cap increase is also every year in the NBA.
That's true.
And here you go.
I mean, I don't know. I think more than 2 years is just
like, dude, just imagine if he looks
if he's the same as he was in the playoffs next year.
Right, but so can I ask something? We're all sitting here with the world's coming to an end mindset. Imagine if he looks bad. Imagine what happens. We pay him and he comes back and we're stuck in purgatory. Okay. And imagine if we were wrong in the last 2 months and he's not in game shape right now and he's not 100% healthy and he comes and they move on and he's still James Harden or not James Harden, but close to James Harden. That's the end of the world situation for me.
No. Wait. You said we signed him for what? 2? Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying we don't, and he's still 26 and 11.
And he plays.
We're all sitting here like. My point is, we're sitting here like, man, if we re-sign him and he comes back looking the same as he did, like we're effed. Correct. What if that's not the case?
Oh, you're saying he opts out and goes to a different team?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying he ends up being good. No, the worst would be.
Well, that's the best case
scenario. Sign him for 2 years and he plays really well. The contract after that is where we'd probably be in the most trouble. But we'll cross that bridge if we get there.
Maybe we'll be past the second round by then.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in and commented. Shout out my guy, Abe. And we will be back on Wednesday, I assume. So for myself, check me out on Twitter at DylanJD98. My co-host here, Matt McGinty, check him out at Matt_McGinty. And the newest member of the Phaithful Phanatics Show, check him out on Twitter at Katahot79. We are all on Team DSM Media. So check us out at DSM_media. The link tree is in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. For myself, for Kata, for DSM. Have a great night.